There it goes. Hello, hello. We're going to let people filter in. What's going on?
Happy Monday.
Both Chelsea's on the call. Let me tell you, that's been tricky having two Chelsea A's in a schedule.
Yeah.
David's
Right.
driving around. We're not going to draw attention to that.
I'm always in my car.
Going
Come
to
on,
get pulled
this is real estate.
over. We're just letting people filter
I'll be
in,
home in
guys.
10 minutes, so.
Jessica's here. Elena's here. Got a couple people with the classic connecting to audio sign. The other Chelsea A in the house.
Sorry, I was on the phone.
You're fine. You're fine. We're going to give people enough time to log in. So let's just kind of get our thoughts together, our paper ready, all that fun stuff. Oh, don't need that. Becky's coming in. We got the whole Mike Bruce team in the house today. Good deal, good deal. Frank's here. Good, good, good. We're just going to let some more people trickle in here. And I've had people, we got two Franks. Hello to both Franks. I've had people asking for the recording. It says it's recording, so I'm happy to send that out, assuming that it does successfully record and I'm able to download it as it shouldn't be any issues. And yet, those of you that work with me know that technology is always a little bit elusive. All right, all right, all right. Okay, that was a weird, what's that guy's name?
Matthew McConaughey.
Thank you. All I could think of was Michael for some reason. Thank you. Matthew McConaughey moment. Okay. All right, it is 3:01, so we're going to get this ball rolling. I have a hard shutoff date at 4 p.m. Eastern time because my CPA says if I don't go meet with him, he's going to come find me, and he's my brother, so he knows where I am. So that's going to be a problem. So we're going to get the ball rolling. We still got people coming in. You are more than welcome to continue to invite people in. I'm keeping an eye on the waiting room, so I'm making sure to get people in as they come. My intention for this, I just got Elena's text message. That makes me very, very happy. My intention for this is that it is going to be a true mastermind. This is not, MAPS coach preaching from the pulpit kind of situation here. What I am intending for this to be is let's all put our brains together and to decide what is working in your markets, what is not working, and what would we like to give a go. So here's my one recommendation to get us started to kind of create some continuity in the room. And I'm going to attempt to run this kind of like a clubhouse. So I'm going to reset the room every now and then so that when people come in, they're getting an update or they're getting the lay of the land, if you will. I'm going to ask you, please get a piece of paper or a notebook or a clean Google Doc is what I've got pulled up, something, okay? And if you're not in a place that you can stop right now, when you get stopped, that works too, that's just fine. A piece of paper, a notebook, something. And I'm going to ask you to write down 3 different columns or 3 different chunks of the paper, whatever you need to do, for these 3 titles. 3 titles. One column, or however you want to call it, is going to be called, I already know this, and I'm already using it. I already know this, and I'm already using it. That's column 1 or page 1 or section 1. Second column or page or chunk, I've heard of this, I'm not using it, and I might use it. Heard of it, not using it, might use it. Don't worry, guys. As you're coming in, don't worry. I'm going to give you these categories again. And then the third category is I've heard of this, I'm not using it, and I'm pretty confident that I cannot use it in my area. Okay? So those of you that are trickling in, I've asked you, go ahead and pull up a Google Doc or a piece of paper or something that you can write down 3 different categories. I already know how to do this and I'm using it. I've already heard of this, I'm not using it, I might be able to, I might be interested in using it. Third category is I've heard of people doing this. I'm not using it, and I'm pretty sure that I cannot use it in my area. Are we clear as mud on that? Thumbs up. Right? Because, and I'm going to throw some people on mute. No offense, just to keep things under control here. Because what I am noticing is a bunch of us have ideas that are working in our market, and a bunch of us are hearing ideas that are working either in our market or in other markets that we either have systematically decided this does not work here, I cannot use it, I'm not even going to try it, right? Or this might work, but I'm hesitant, it makes me nervous for whatever reason, I'm uncomfortable, and I haven't done it yet. So whether you are 100% certain that you can or cannot use something, rather than just jettisoning it, let's get it down on paper so that you can return to it. Clear as mud? Yes, I see a lot of nodding heads. Okay, so for those of you that just came in the room, I'll reset the room one more time here. This is a mastermind, not a preaching from the pulpits, okay? So that means that you guys are gonna need to participate so that we can share each other's ideas and make sure that we're giving best practices. Given that we are all over the country, I'm gonna ask that we don't say one phrase. That does not work in my market. We know. It's not all gonna work in everyone's market. That's why we have these 3 columns. I know what it is and I'm using it. I'm already doing it. It's working great. I've heard of it. I'm not using it. I might be interested. I've heard of it. I'm not using it. And I'm pretty sure it won't work in my area. Okay. Any questions before we open up for masterminding? Okay. We are all Zoom aficionados at this point, correct? We are all just PhD in Zoomology, right? So I'm going to say that we can just go ahead and first and foremost, make sure you're using the chat box as you want to, as you need to. I recommend, why don't we throw our contact information in there so that way you guys can actually mastermind offline as well. I also recommend that instead of using your hand, although you're more than welcome to, if you put your hand up, I will make sure that you are spoken, or that you get to speak, not spoken for. That would be weird. Okay. Just throw yourself off of mute and let's start masterminding it up. Okay. At some point, I'm going to pause in about 15 or so minutes in case more people come in so I can reset the room. But other than that, I'm done. What is working to get buyers under contract in your market? Don't all start at once. Or I'm going to start.
Yeah, that doesn't work in our market.
No, Ryan starts with my.
We are dealing with a crazy market where a house will be on the market from 500,000 to $1 million, and we're getting multiple offers in $100,000 over asking price with a cash guarantee. We have 36 buyers that are currently active, and it is becoming exhausting showing homes left and right to get a call back from the agent saying, I'm just going to be real with you, don't even bother. I don't have a good answer for why we're not getting under contract besides my clients don't have enough money.
So let's actually, you know what? I'm going to pause for a second. Apologies. I'm rewriting our ship as we go. We're going to chunk this into 2 different things. We're going to chunk this mastermind into what is working for the buyers who are ready, willing, and able in this market, right? What is working for the buyers that are ready, willing, and able? And then how are we differentiating between who is a ready, willing, and able buyer for this market and who was 6 months ago? Okay. So let's start with, how do you define a ready, willing, and able buyer in your market?
Pre-approved. Has to have some sort of financing in place.
Keep going and be a little bit more specific. Just curious, in your market, do they need to be pre-approved or do they need to be a cash buyer?
I think pre-approved, it's just the beginning. I mean, I see in some areas, FHA is not even working because sellers are only taking cash in conventional. Also, educate the buyer that if the buyer is asking for closing costs, that is not happening these days. So you have to come up with a clean, full price offer. And if it's cash or conventional, it's even better.
Exactly. Keep going. So what does clean offer mean? Someone describe what a clean offer means.
Local lender. At least, so in my marketplace, I mean, I work DC Metro, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and probably my average time from contract to close is like 14 days. So sometimes I get people to close 8 days, 10 days, 14 days, 21 days. Like a 30-day close for me is just super long. And then just working with big banks is out of the question. I know that's not the case in other parts of the country, but with us, it's like absolutely a non-starter.
So local lender, absolutely. I'm hearing that across the board. Terry's got her hand up.
Elena. And also a local lender that I've worked with and have a reputation, or that has an awesome reputation and a relationship with. Every listing agent is asking that. Do you know this lender? Have you worked with them? So it's not, and definitely not out of state lender. I was going to actually ask how I've worked with Keller Mortgage once and it went fine, like getting the offer accepted, but I was wondering on a general basis if you guys are working with Keller Mortgage on a high level and how it's going and how they're accepting. Are agents open to it?
I see Chelsea Ashworth nodding her head, and I know that she's gotten some competitive offers under contract. Chelsea, what are you seeing with Keller Mortgage?
I mean, so I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're a banking and financing hub. So like Bank of America is headquartered right down the street. If I see a Bank of America offer, I'm denying it. That's our local lenders. So Keller Mortgage is fine. I've had, I got one accepted with Keller in multiple offers this weekend. I got one accepted in with Better Mortgage in multiple offers this weekend. Who the financer is doesn't matter here.
What's the closing time frame on those, Chelsea?
Keller Mortgage will close by the end of this month. He
And
needs
for clarity, she put
3
it under
weeks.
contract this weekend.
21 days,
Okay.
So,
which is, that's fast for my market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mine too.
And to the point about the lender, I actually won an offer for a pair of investors. I mean, yes, we had to escalate, but they actually called the lender, and since he had never done business with the lender before, he asked for references of other agents at Sotheby's that they'd done business with, and actually called these other agents. So, I mean, more so than ever. I mean, I won't even, it's to the point now where if a client absolutely insists on using any kind of anything else, anybody else, I won't even probably even take them as a client if I know I can't convert them, because it's stupid. They're not even gonna be able to have a shot.
I agree with you.
So they've got to be either pre-approved or cash. Someone mentioned that. Tracy, I see your hand up and coming straight to you. No closing cost assistance. Franklin, absolutely agree with that. And local lender or trusted lender, someone you can vouch for. Tracy, what were you going to add to that?
I was going to add that having a buyer's consultation is 100% vital in this market, because they have no idea, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, what they're going to be coming against. And something that has been helpful for the first-time home buyer, so say they're pre-approved for $250,000, right? What I will say to them at this point is, let's look at the properties, if we can find them, in the 225s. You can shop to the 250, but if you get in a bidding war, you're not going to be able to compete with somebody who can go higher than 250. So by placing yourself in this zone here, it offers you the opportunity to bid higher if you have to, and hopefully get the house that way.
I want to jump on that too. Being able to do a buyer presentation over Zoom has completely changed the way we're doing business. We do our buyer presentation, we pull up the MLS, then we pull up the contract, and we tell them everything. This is your price range, this is what you're looking for, here's the MLS, here. There's 5 houses, which one do you want?
Well said. Ryan, you've got your hand up.
Consult.
I do have my hand
Buyer
up.
consult. Is it the same as when you used to meet in person? Mike?
He's given a head nod.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same, but instead of me working on my laptop, turning around, showing it to them, it's all on my screen share.
30 minutes, is that your typical buyer consult time?
Give or take.
Yeah.
Ryan, what you got?
All right, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Go Buckeyes.
And you just muted yourself.
You're
Muted
muted.
myself. What the heck? All right. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Go Buckeyes. That's what I said. Any fans? No, nobody. All right. I was just talking with my buyer's agent, Vinny, who's on here. Hi, Vinny. Earlier, they were talking about this because I learned a lot about what not to do to win multiple offer situations by one of our listing getting a bunch of them this weekend. And there's a lot of really bad things that agents do. Like on their pre-approval letters, they don't even say how much they're putting down, any of that information. That's valuable information to be on there. I've also found, and we said we're going to start doing this on every one of them. We're going to call the agent and ask them, what is your experience with our buyer's lender? Do you have a good experience with them? And if they say something bad, we're like, no problem. We've got another lender that we can have them with. Or who do you prefer?
Yes.
What lenders do you like? So that we create a winning solution for them as well. And then if it's somebody they don't have experience with, or they do have good experiences, we let them know we've been working with this lender for a long time now. We've had nothing but good experiences. They close on time, transparent, good communication. And I use Keller Mortgage almost exclusively. They're fantastic. And they're well respected in our market.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I have had nothing but positive experiences. My clients thus far, those who have used Keller Mortgage, have had nothing but positive experiences. And it's always good to get that fodder. One additional thought, Ryan, that you just triggered for me. When I was active in production, and again, this is one of these things, don't know if you can do it in your area, you need to put it in that column. Don't know if I can do it in this area. Was when we thought we were in a competitive market, we would have buyers get a second pre-approval with the lender of our choice. They did not have to use that lender, but knowing that they got through pre-approval with the lender that we most frequently used and liked, gave us and our sellers the peace of mind to say, okay, they can use whomever, they're pre-approved through the people that we like. So that may fit into the don't know if I can do it in my area column. What else is working in terms of getting ready, willing, and able buyers and clarifying that? Tracy, I saw your hand go up.
I just wanted to also say that, oh my gosh, I think I just blanked out. When you're speaking with what you want to do also is when your offer comes through to that seller, again, because we're getting the same with when we have our listing with multiple offers, how many times do you get the contract and it isn't even filled out correctly? So if you're going to have 5 offers, 6 offers, who are you going to choose? The agent that comes through like an ace that you're going to work well with, or the ones that can't even fill out the address of the buyer? So that makes your offer stronger because you're coming in really professional.
Also, is everybody using a summary on their email too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think just really buttoned up communication, probably overall, and just as soon as if there's a client I have that's interested with a property that comes available, just calling the agent, letting them know we have interest. This is who the buyer is. This is what their situation is. They're probably going to write. Is there anything you want to see in there? We can put in the offer. Make the offer super clean. Everything filled out to the T, and then also include it with a summary and just a really killer, include the agent, include the title company. I mean, everyone and their mother on the email, so they get a warm and fuzzy. And I actually have a really awesome template I can send you guys if you want, that I feel like is fantastic. And then
email. Elena, throw your email in the chat box so that if folks want that template, they can shoot you an email.
Yep.
And Mikey can send that out. I'm going to ask Louisa to unmute. I see a hand raised.
Hey guys. As everybody was talking about the summary, one of the things I actually did this today, and I think it went really well. I saw this in Family Reunion, was putting the summary in a video and sending that in the email with the offer. And I got an immediate response from the listing agent. So I think that went over pretty well.
Yeah, those video messages, be that a quick introduction before the showing or a video with here's the summary of our offer, those do seem to be making a big difference. When you've got 30-something offers to paw through, and one agent takes the time to give you a quick, easy peasy, you know, TikTok video, essentially, that's the link that we're looking for here. It makes a big difference. Pause for just a second, because that we're starting to scoot over into that. How do I get an offer accepted? Go back for one more second to what is a ready, willing, and able buyer? Because this is truly, guys, this is in the shift book. This isn't something new. Without clarity around what is a ready, willing, and able buyer in my market, we're spending a lot of time working with folks who are not actually able to purchase. So what else do we have? Yeah.
I think if they have a house that they need to sell, it needs to be under contract and as far through that process as they can be. Nobody's looking at 48-hour contingencies in my market. They won't even consider them. So, you know, having that conversation ahead of time and getting their property listed and sold, you know, under contract ahead of time, I think is really, really important, because we can say, hey, listen, it is contingent, but we've crossed every hurdle that we can in this deal, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about short-term housing? Are you guys getting your buyers into short-term housing if they have a home to sell? What the heck do I mean by short-term housing?
We talk about it at every appointment, whether or not you're going like an Airbnb, a lease back, or just a super long closing.
Depending on the sales price and the equity in that home, I've joked around with most of you folks in my schedule about, if you told me that I thought my home was worth 300 and you could sell it for 350, I'd pack a bag and I'd go to Best Western with my 2 dogs, my chickens, the whole 9 yards. I'd do it. So we need to make sure we opening those options up for our buyers. Let's get them out of their current home. What else? Great point.
I have several people that are not willing to do that. So are they, you know, are they considered not ready, willing, and able?
That's a great question. That's a great question. To be ready, willing, and able buyer in this market, it seems like the consensus is you have to have your home sold, or at the very least under contract and well along its way. And again,
well, my people don't need to sell their home to buy, but they would be such easier. We would have an accepted offer already if they had done what we had talked about a few months ago, but they weren't willing to, and they're still not willing to move twice.
Pause.
And they're approved without having to sell their house, but we're not getting the offers accepted because they can't waive their appraisal, or they can't waive their, you know, they don't have enough money down. So
what word did you use twice there, Terry? And I apologize, I'm stepping into coaching mode here.
Can't.
They're not willing.
Oh, they're not willing.
They got to be ready, willing, and able, right?
Right.
To speak to that, I think in our market, you need at least 1% in cash over, willing and able to put at least 1%, and that's minimum. And that doesn't mean your earnest money or your closing costs. That's completely separate. If you're not willing to fight for it, you will not win.
So got to be willing to go over. Well said. No one's mentioning, I'm surprised this hasn't come up yet. What about appraisals, guys?
Waiving it on everyone.
Waiving it on everyone.
Waiving everything on everyone.
Just waiving it?
The appraisals, what we do is we use an addendum that says, you know, if it doesn't appraise, you're going to come up with the cash. And they got to have a, you know, a proof of funds for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time. It all comes down to the initial consultation and setting the expectations. Hey, in this market, this is reality. And, you know, we're not even going to look at something if there's no way in heck you got a chance of getting it.
Thank you, Frank. That sums it up right there. Without that buyer's consultation where we are laying out the expectations, people hire agents to educate them about how to purchase a house, right? So if we're not doing that, are we being the fiduciary agents that we claim to be? Are we going gray prematurely, pulling out our hair?
Hey, Leah.
Yes.
Can I throw something in there? You know, when we talk about, you know, I agree. And a lot of the markets that I coach people in, including my own, you know, people are waiving a lot of things, appraisals, inspections. And, you know, what I would just throw out there is to say, how are you guys CYAing yourself, covering your, you know what? in case somebody says, well, they recommended I don't do inspections and I didn't, and now I've got a $100,000 bill to repair a home on, you know? And so how are you guys covering your butts to make sure that you're not caught in a bad spot?
One
I don't
one
do
thing.
that.
Sorry.
I don't advise them to waive the appraisals or anything like that.
Keep going, Frank.
Well, yeah. Well, but
Hold
what
on.
if they? So what if they do waive the appraisals? How do you
I
cover
think you're
yourself
onto
in that
something
case?
there. So you don't advise them to do it. What is it, Frank?
I don't advise them to you know, waive the appraisals or anything like that. And I don't advise them to waive the inspections because you may find something terribly wrong. That being said, people also got to realize that in most markets today, you're putting up significant due diligence money and be willing to lose that if the house came back as a total train wreck that was non-foreseeable, that nothing showed.
Yep. And to piggyback off of that, Mike has a comment in the box. Is that in regard to this, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility just to educate the buyers. If they want to waive their inspection, if they want to waive their appraisal, they can. But I'm going to be getting all that in writing to make sure that they're not going to come back to me 6 months from now going, this house has structure damage.
Exactly.
Mike is absolutely right.
Yeah, Tracy.
What we've been doing is, as far as the home inspection goes, unless it's environmental or structural, we'll waive it. But so in other words, when we're coming in, we're saying we're not going to go after anything cosmetic. But if it's structural or environmental, then, you know, we're going to, it'll be up to the buyers to decide what they want to do at that time.
Well done.
But most homeowners are fine with that. Most homeowners, if it's structural, they're going to have to fix it anyway for their next buyer if they want to move on with selling their house, or environmental, the same thing. They're going to have to address it.
Pre-inspections are always a good option.
And I was going to, so that has to do with the seller side of things. And that'd be great if we could, as listing agents, encourage our sellers, let's go ahead and get you an inspection. It's going to make things that much smoother, that much easier.
Yes.
Well, actually, I mean, for the buyers. Oh.
Buyer.
Sorry.
For the buyer as well. So that's an option as well, to do this inspection when?
After you see it.
Before we even go under contract.
If
Yeah,
you can.
so you do
If
have to
can.
get
That's a time
permission,
frame
yeah,
question.
from the seller. Yeah.
So that might go in the not sure I can do it in my area box. Hang on, I got Luisa's hand raised. I saw Chelsea's hand raised.
I was going to say that one of the things that happened in one of my listings that I've been doing too is that instead of telling someone to waive the inspection, we're giving an inspection credit. So we'll waive the first $5,000 if there's anything that comes up in the inspection, so the sellers don't have to worry about it. If it's something more than $5,000, then we'll have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And Chelsea?
In my market, I mean, even before COVID, we were kind of practicing that cosmetic repairs don't exist. It's just structural and major mechanical systems or environmental. So now we will agree to an as-is contract, but that's not waiving an inspection. So my buyers can still get an inspection to understand what they're purchasing, so that they're not going in blindsided and they can still walk away. Now they'd lose money to do that. They'd lose due diligence money and earnest money, but they still have the right to inspect it. But we're submitting contracts without no appraisal contingency, and no inspection contingency, but we're still doing the inspections just later on.
And to Chris's question, I think that was a killer question here, right? We do got to be cautious and careful about what are we advising as professionals, right? Oh, yeah. And to Frank and Mike's point here, I'm pointing at the squares as if you're all in the same spot on your screens too. To your guys' points, there are plenty of documents that you could have drafted with the help of an attorney, with the help of your broker in charge, that you just add that to your buyer consult, that you add that to your buyer offer that saves your hiney and allows them to make the best offer in term that they're willing to do. Fair? Just to pause for just a second here. We've had some people enter the room. I want to run through the list of what I've already written down. So just as a reset of the room here, this is a mastermind. Feel free to raise your hand, speak up, do what you got to do to ask your questions and get your points heard. What we're looking for here is what I recommended was coming up with 3 different columns, right? to group your information in. The first one that I recommended was, I already know this and I'm already using this. Okay? Because while you may know it, maybe your team doesn't. I've heard of this. I'm not using it. I might be interested in using it. That's the second column. And the third column is, I've heard of people doing this. I am not using it. I am pretty dang sure that I cannot use it in my market center or in my MLS, right? Thus far, what I've written down is we have to do a buyer's consult to make sure that the buyers are 100% crystal clear on what it takes to be a ready, willing, and able buyer in today's market. We sell real estate, not imaginary estate. Let's make sure that they are clear on that. Yes? And then all the rest of that is going to come following, right? They got to get pre-approved, or they need to be a cash buyer. It probably needs to be a local or well-trusted lender. We've got no closing cost assistance. Everything from shopping lower than pre-approval. Get a trusted lender. I already said that. Current home needs to be under contract, or they need to be out of it. At least 1% over asking. You're probably going to not be able to offer below or at what it's being listed at. We've got earnest money and closing costs are probably going to be higher than they would be in a different market. Waiving appraisal, covering the appraisal gap, waiving inspections, or being very specific about what the inspection period is going to cover and what we might address, right? Anything else that makes a ready, willing, and able buyer in this market before we shift fully over to, here's how I'm getting offers accepted.
One last thing from me is,
yeah,
we never have talked about appraisal gap contingencies in the buyer presentation before. Having that conversation with the buyer going, listen, I know you want to put 20% down. Let's talk about how much extra cash you have on top of that, because if we have to put 10,000 down, I need to know, what do you feel comfortable with? What's your price point on top of what you're already putting down? Let's have that conversation now, so we're not having it in the middle of submitting the offer.
Yeah, killer point there. Killer point. Any of these seemingly abnormalities, and I'd be careful about the language that we're using when we're talking to our buyers as well. It's not abnormal, it's just the market that we have. Any of these different things than what their parents or their friends that bought 6 years ago are going to go through, we need to address it up front. Chris has his hand raised.
Yeah, a couple of things I'll throw out there as we wrap up this part of the conversation is, I'm not sure how many of you have, like, it used to be, I think it was the Kokoska presentation that they sold at Bold or whatever, but it's like, hey, here's what an A buyer is what a B buyer is what a C buyer is. Which one are you? And redefining A, B, and C for this current market and having them self-identify. And then another thing I've heard of folks doing is going over the strategies that you can use to win offers, such as either, inspection deductibles, which is what I heard some of you say, appraisal issues, earnest money, those kind of things. And then having them choose, hey, which one of these strategies do you want to, use in going after it, so that, they identify what kind of buyer they are, and, you're not telling them what it is, they're identifying it, and then they're also choosing what strategies, and based on what they choose, you'll know whether they're real serious about walking onto this battlefield that we call buyer's market or seller's market right now.
Well said. Lisa, I saw your hand pop up.
Yeah, I really liked about the inspection credit, and there's a couple of, some of the input has really been helpful. But one of the things that we do that hasn't really been mentioned is being proactive about getting the listings for your buyers to buy ahead of time. I think that right now, one of the things we're doing is we're sending out letters for buyers to people that aren't listed in neighborhoods where our buyers want to buy. And also calling other realtors. Like I had some buyers from California. By the way, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I had some buyers from California who've been looking and looking and looking. We can't find anything for them. So when they were coming to town, it didn't work, but I called all the realtors that I knew that sold houses in that price range and asked them if they had any listings coming up that I could show that weren't listed yet. And that actually worked. I mean, if I found 2 or 3 homes that way. Buyers didn't buy them, but I did find some homes for them. So that was really helpful. I think my son, you had a question. Yeah. This is Arthur.
Hi. I've experimented with escalation clauses, and I feel like oftentimes it can be a double-edged sword. I'm wondering if anyone has strategies or ways of presenting an escalation clause that they find is working well for them.
And the
Great
other
question.
question is when you have two escalation clauses in the same offer, I mean, two different parties doing escalation clauses and they cancel each other out, that doesn't work very well.
Great question. Who is using escalation clauses to their favor? Chelsea Anderson? What you got, girl?
Basically, making the escalation something bigger than most people. So most offers that I see on my listing are like 500 or 1,000. So we're at 2,000 or 5,000 above. And then make sure it says your net offer instead of just a blanket offer. So it's the seller's bottom line that you're improving, not like somebody asking for $5,000 and a washer dryer or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I see a couple of hand raised emojis. I'm not sure if those are regarding this particular question or not.
Well, I had two pieces. So in Mar Market with the escalation clause, it's illegal for me to share another offer. So if your escalation clause says $1,000 over the highest offer up to whatever with proof, I'm sorry, your piece of paper is worth nothing to me because I can't, that's illegal for me to show you an offer. And I see a ton of that in my market. And I just throw them out and I take that as an agent who doesn't know license law and I don't want to do business with you.
Okay, yep.
And then I was going to say the other thing is I keep asking my buyers is whenever they find a house and they want to make an offer on it, kind of like the reframing and having them identify themselves question is I ask them if they want to write an offer, if they want to go under contract. And that helps me judge like how much buy-in they have. Like, do you want to buy this house? Are you willing to do everything it takes to get this house? Or do you want to write an offer and see what happens?
Yeah, Chelsea hit me with that on our coaching call last week. And I think, I gave you a gold star for the week, right? Like if I had a sticker chart, she would have gotten the star for the week. I mean, that one gave me chills. Do you want to write an offer or do you want to go under contract?
Because frankly, I just got sick of writing offers if they weren't actually going to come to anything. It's not, I've got other people in my pipeline that I could go out with.
So briefly here, I just want to say the escalation clause question, if I can spit that out properly. Great question. My biggest recommendation with this that I haven't heard said yet is talk to the listing agent and ask them, are you guys going to be interested in an escalation clause? Or are you going to be interested in our absolute highest and best as it is currently? And because what I've seen is that some folks doing an escalate, I don't know, I'm sitting like this, I'm about to come over some folks, the escalation clause, it's just, it befuddles the seller, it befuddles the listing agent. It doesn't get us anywhere. Some folks in some markets, escalation clauses are absolutely what's winning the deal. So we got to have that open communication that was mentioned earlier with the other agent. Yes, Lisa. Oh, you're on mute. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I think escalation clauses worked a few months ago in our market when when we were just beginning to get a lot of multiple offers, and then they worked. Right now, they're not working so much. And actually, I think the idea that sharing offers is, it's going to be legal or illegal in different markets. In our market, it's legal to share an offer if you have permission from your seller. But I don't know. It's an interesting problem right now we have.
Any other hold on, we got a couple things happen. I see Mike's hand going up. Rachel's had her virtual hand up.
Rachel, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. So just to piggyback off of Lisa's like finding properties that are not on the market. One thing I've had a lot of luck with, I don't know if you guys are seeing a huge amount of fallout from contracts in your market. I've been reaching out to agents who have pending properties and asking them how solid the deal is. I've had 2, maybe coming up on 3 deals where I was able to get my buyers in before the property even went back on the market. I just asked them what the previous offer they accepted was. We matched it and we slid right in before it went back on the market with anybody else.
Killer, killer, killer. Thank you for sharing that. I'd forgotten that conversation that we had. That was a great one. Hold your thought, Elena. Mike, what was yours?
Going off for the escalation clauses, when you're calling that other agent asking, is an escalation clause acceptable? Ask them what is it going to take to not only be the highest, but the best offer. Highest and best. I always want to know what's the best.
Yeah. Highest and best. Well said, because it may not always be about money. Maybe about a move out date or something else. Elena?
I would always, I mean, I don't know if this is allowed in all marketplaces, but I always like to position ourselves as a backup. So we, you know, and I actually won 3 deals last year. 3 of my buyers went to closing from being backup offers. You'd be surprised.
For sure.
Like fully ratify, negotiate the terms, everything. So it never even goes back to the market, it goes straight to you.
I think that finding the buyer their home in terms of something that is not yet listed is the creme de la creme, is focusing on the plan, not the problem in this market. Because if we have listings, our job becomes a heck of a lot easier. So absolutely, David gave a little woo down there. If we can focus on finding the listings, then our job becomes a heck of a lot easier. In terms of finding the buyers their homes, great options that have already been listed out. Sending a letter, I wrote down specifically the golden letter. I have a buyer, if you considered selling, now's the time. Keep it short, simple, to the point. Don't put a ton of agent jargon in there, please, right? Calling the realtor looking for pocket listings, killer option there. Lisa recommended talking to the agents with pending properties to get to slide into their DMs for the backup offer, right? The other one here is we have got to be talking to our database, have to be talking to our database, asking them, what is your would sell number? Because we are a piece of their financial wealth and understanding that financial wealth. So first of all, that is our fiduciary duty, is to help make sure that they know what they are living in terms of equity, right? And maybe their would sell number hasn't yet come just yet, but it could be right around the corner, and we need to be ready to tell them what that is, when that is rather. So in terms of finding the listings, talk to your database, please God. Anything else about ready, willing, and able buyer before we shift more fully into, because we've been tiptoeing into it, but really shift into getting the offer accepted? My last comment, if we have a bunch of not ready, willing, and able buyers, we probably don't have buyers. We've got people that we're out showing homes to, and we might want to make a decision about what we want to do with those folks. And I'm sure you can have a conversation with your coach about how to have that conversation with those people, to do it tactfully, kindly, right? Kindly, making up words over here. All right, guys, so far, getting the offer accepted. We've got a cleanly written offer. Please know how to fill in your contracts, right? Good communication prior to the showing when you're sending the offer off, all the way around. Summary email or a summary video asking what the highest and best offer that we could present is. What else is causing people to win their offers?
I have my lender call too. So if my lender is calling a listing agent and telling them everything that they've looked at and their credit and income and going over that with them and being totally upfront about their process, then we get a really good reception.
Genius. Yep. Have your lender call their agent. Louise says, your hand up, I'm so sorry.
It is. One thing that I did recently is offer to pay for the seller's moving expenses, especially like an Airbnb or storage, whatever they need so they could move fast, even if we're representing the buyer.
Love that. And I wonder too if that wouldn't eventually win you another client because their listing agent didn't recommend that. You recommended that as the buyer's agent. Orphan clients, love it. What else we got? Yes, Terry.
Regarding the appraisal, instead of completely removing the appraisal, well, actually we are removing the appraisal, but if they are qualified and the lender runs it through underwriting and they get a waiver of appraisal, that protects that buyer and they're feeling more comfortable than completely waiving an appraisal. So they're safe doing that. If they're kind of on the edge about if they would be willing to waive it or not.
Okay. Perfect. So fiddling with some of those contingencies to make them work for both parties. Yep.
I always have a conversation with the listing agent before I write the offer and just ask, what would make our offer stand out above all others price aside, right? Obviously, everybody wants the most money. But is it, do they need a flexible closing time frame? Do they want to take some appliances? Do they want the option to rent back? Whatever it is, right? What would help? And no, not really any other agents in my market are doing that. They always seem surprised. But it seems to have worked. So
thank you for being the surpriser, right? Jessica, then Tracy.
Just a follow up to that, following up with agents, if they are reviewing offers on Monday and you wrote your offer on Friday or Saturday, following up throughout the weekend, hey, can you tell me anything about any of those other offers that you have? How are we looking? Is there anything that we can do to sweeten our offer and make it stronger?
Yeah. Absolutely. I've always been surprised by what a listing agent will tell a buyer's agent. Sorry, go ahead.
Jump in real quick here. Okay. I get that a lot from a lot of, because I do a lot of listings in the area. I do get agents that ask me that question. And it's really hard because I don't want to play favoritisms, because I have a lot of agents asking me the exact same question, you know, and, you know, I don't want to give the edge to one over the other. It's not fair to the other agents as well. So it's really a tricky question. You know, I do get agents asking that question all the time. You know, is there anything you can tell me? And it's hard. I just basically tell everybody, put their last and best. Don't put your second best. There's not going to be a counter offer. You know, it's just, if you give your best offer now, your best offer and terms, and you don't get it, at least you know you tried your best. But I can't really give any more information than what you would ask, you know, and I hate it because we're in this competitive environment. But, you know, I do get that from agents, you know, and I feel bad.
Well, and here's the thing of it. Let's be 100% honest. As the listing agent, you should not be telling people, typically, right? Typically, unless, again, it could be different in your area. That is our disclaimer of the day. We already know that. Typically, you shouldn't be given information about what other offers are coming in. And as a buyer's agent, we should ask. Because
Absolutely.
You'd be surprised how many agents will.
That's right. You don't ask, you don't get. It's that simple, you know. And they do tell me, sometimes these agents tell me that the other agent told me that their highest offer was X. You know, so
we had a conversation about that last week on our coaching call. We chuckled about it. Yeah, don't be that agent, but be that agent on the buy side.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt to ask. You never know.
Arthur's got a hand up.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that we can kind of offer a seller or a listing agent that are a little bit untangible. So I think demonstrating that you're really easy to work with is really important up front. And then asking those questions, but asking them in a way that's kind of respectful. Like you don't want to be, you know, implying that you don't want to be trying to dig for information that they don't want to give you. So, you know, if you just ask, like, what can you tell me about the other offers? I think that's a good way to approach it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. Tracy. Yep.
Yes. I wanted to just add to the same dialogue that we're all having right now. When we're working for the seller, we're working for the seller, right? So that's a big no. I don't know how many times I get that question, you know, well, what will they accept? Have they accepted, ask, you know, in this market, assume that it's ask and above. Just assume that the property already has offers on it. Just assume that. So you don't need to waste the time bothering, because sometimes when your phone's blowing up over the weekend, it's like, you should be expecting that, you know. But on the other side, when you're working with buyers, always ask that question, because so many times an agent will say it and then I just say, I can't believe that you just said that, but thank you. So I think that, you know, it depends on who you're representing. But something else that you could do to, you want to be first. You want to be that first one in. And if you already know that this 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch is absolutely perfect for your buyer and it just gets on the market now, you know, you could put as a contingency, put the offer in contingent on the buyer seeing it. So now you've got the offer as the listing agent. I have this fabulous offer. They're going to go and look at it at 9 o'clock this morning. And guess what? We'll have a deal, right? Because I'm getting everything I'm asking for as the listing agent, and the buyer, all they have to do is go in and look, and you've kind of locked it in.
Tracy, how far in advance are you submitting that offer before seeing it? Just curious.
Well, I've had it worth both ways for me. Once as a listing agent, I had the buyer, she was from China, and it was during COVID, she couldn't leave, and she made the offer contingent on her son-in-law taking the walkthrough, being her eyes here, and we sold it within 30 days. We had a cash deal. With a buyer, I just would do it immediately, because when you're working with that buyer, you have that close relationship, that you know that they trust you, and they're not going to get stuck if they walk out and say, guess what, I don't like it. Okay, good, we withdraw the offer, because it's contingent on you looking at it. But it also is that way of being that first agent in the door with that contract to rise above, to get in first.
Yeah, so to play off that, so we have out-of-state buyers that we're doing like FaceTime videos and stuff for, and we're just not telling the seller that it's us and not them in the house, because that's kind of not their business, I guess, until it has to be their business, because it's too competitive right now to tell the truth. But our market does allow them to get, we have ways out of contract. Do you guys have ways out of getting, if you have buyer's remorse, do you have a way out? If you put in an offer non-contingent on seeing it, do you have a way out if they see it and hate it?
We have attorney approval for the first 5 business days, and I call that their get out of jail free card.
And see, this is where things get fun and interesting, because New Jersey's got attorney approval, New York's got attorney approval, right? And then other states where I worked in Georgia, we had a buyer's due diligence period that you could walk away for whatever reason. North Carolina, you walk away, but you throw out a ton of cash to the seller. This is where you've got to get really, really, really intimate with your purchase and sale agreement. You need to know every single detail, every single clause, every single bit about that agreement, because I can promise you this, the other agents in your market do not. And if you can use that contract to your buyer and or seller's advantage, because you fully understand what's in there and how to use it, it's going to make a world of difference. Jima.
Hey, I just wanted to share about the, so one thing that I'm doing, it's looking at coming soons and actually striking a deal before the property gets in the market. So I won a contract over this weekend with the coming soon, and the property was supposed to hit the market this weekend. We are under contract, and we had a contingent of doing the inspection as is, but we had the option to do inspection. So that was our leeway out doing the inspection, and if she didn't like it, she could walk away. So we got that, and the house was perfectly fine, what she actually wanted. So that's a way, coming soon, be aggressive with it. Some agents will work with you on that. Another way is I heard someone say that you can submit your offer very early. I think that I was on another training call, which someone mentioned that you could submit your offer. You shouldn't submit your offer that early, so other agents could possibly use that as a stepping stone to bid your offer, because some agents will give clues on what offers they've received, right? So I sent one offer like an hour before, and as I was sending, I was on the phone with the agent, and he gave me clues that made me win the offer on everybody else. So yeah, you want to ask how, I mean, they might not tell you exactly where it is, but like you may be able to gauge where everything is and have a conversation with your buyer last minute to improve it and be better. So yeah.
Yeah, those are 2 really good points. The coming soon, there's a couple of folks that I'm working with that have had some really great success with those coming soons. And again, don't say it, guys. It varies from state to state, area to area, right? What you can do, what you can't do. I've got some folks that are saying, let me get my clients in there and we'll go ahead and rock out an inspection prior to you even pulling the live date. So if it works, it works. We'll rock right along. And if it doesn't, you keep right along and do your thing. The other point that he made there that was really clever is this gets tricky with, if you know the agent on the other side of the phone, you can make a better decision about, do I come in quickly and I trust them to be in integrity and not to share the details of my offer with someone else. Or if I don't, I might make a different decision. There are also, you may also want to look at the time for the offer to expire. Buyer's agents, you may want to make that time very short to force a response and not to allow 60 different offers to come in. Okay, bunch of hands popped up. I saw Lisa's first.
I just had a comment on when you make the relation, it's really important to have a really good relationship with other agents in your marketplace, because the more you can develop good relationships, the more they want you to win when you submit an offer to them. I had a situation recently where we made the offer, and I usually call the agent ahead of time and say, well, what do you need? Well, this agent told me everything. She said, make it for this amount, make it for this length, make it for this closing date. I'm thinking, well, what about the other offers? You know, I mean, it turned out she was telling me everything I needed to know because she wanted to work with me. So, I mean, that's not particularly fair to her sellers, but man, I was gonna take advantage of it for my buyers.
Those
So
top relationships. Uh-oh, it clicked off. Hang on, Lisa, I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, I said, don't get adversarial with the people that you have to work with in the future. If you can maintain, I mean, there are times when they drive you crazy, but if you can maintain good relationships with everybody, they'll be in your court when you do bring an offer.
Absolutely. That is a huge selling point. I have mentioned, there's a few of you that I know that in my coaching schedule, I've said, you got to understand who are the top hitting agents in your market center and how close of a relationship do you have with them? Because for better or for worse, if you guys have a tight relationship and they know, like, and trust you just like any other referral partner in your world, it makes your job a heck of a lot easier. All right, 5 minutes left. I want to hear the best last thoughts that we have here on how do we get offers accepted for buyers, or burning desire questions that have not yet been answered before we throw in additional 2 cents. I am stumped and this has not been answered and I'm ticked off.
Hey, sorry. Oh,
Please,
so this is
please.
Jimmy again. One thing I just wanted to share real quick. So you can share your resume. Like if you are a seasoned agent, you want to share your resume with the listing agent. So I'm having my lender send what they're doing and, what, like, their transactions, and then myself. So sorry to the new folks, but like, it's working. They feel comfortable with the lender. They feel very comfortable with you, and literally telling them, hey, I have not, some agents haven't had a transaction fall through in the last 2 years. So they know who they're working with, and you want to talk about that with the agents.
That's huge. That's huge. We used to call that, I don't know if we still do, I haven't heard this thrown around in a while, an agent's lore report. If you don't know how to pull a lore report on yourself or put one together, compile one, again, talk to your coach. That's a genius idea. Annie, I'm ticked off. I haven't gotten this question answered. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm a first-year agent, so I have lots of questions all the time, but I have a buyer who insists on a VA loan. He qualifies for a conventional loan, but he refuses to switch to a conventional loan, and I'm wondering if there's anything that you guys have done that has made a VA loan look more appealing to a seller.
Guys, great question.
What's his reason for not switching? If the rates are competitive, why would he not go with a conventional and make it more acceptable? Because rates, from what I understand, the rates on a regular conventional loan are not, they're competitive with VA. Right, I had somebody who was going to go the VA route, and then he just went conventional because the rates are about the same.
Well, he's an older military man, and he's hung up on the not paying closing costs and the processing fees. That's it.
Here's what I'm wondering.
Buyers the same way. That's a great question.
Who on this call works tightly with VA loans or military families or PCSing families, or have experience themselves? Jeff?
I work with a lot of VA buyers as a vet myself. So I'm in the same scenario, and prior to the market being the way it is, I would question any veteran or anyone who rates a VA finance and to not use it. One of the things we do is, like if you want that um, a lot of times I just had a buyer that needed the closing costs, and we just increased the price. So going back to a comment earlier about the experience of knowing the lender, knowing our market and appraisals, I do so many VA loans that I'm able to credit myself and knowing the market that, you know, if you accept this buyer's offer on a VA, I'm confident that it's going to appraise, which is, you know, our market's not like many of yous where we're waiving appraisals or anything. But knowing that you're not going to have any issues with this home meeting VA requirements, which is another issue a lot of sellers have. It is difficult though. You know, our market's reaching that point where I have to have that conversation with buyers, that rate of VA of, you may want to forgo VA if you really want this home because it will make a stronger offer. But if they want to proceed with it, which I understand, I got caught in buying a property years ago, not using a VA that bit me in the butt. But it's really just understanding the VA process and being able to assure a seller that because it's VA, it's not going to impede us being able to close.
One other thought on that too that can be helpful if this guy's dead set on using it is that lender, I'm hoping that lender is well versed in issuing VA loans and writing VA loans. And if they are willing to call and explain or provide, you know, that explanation, that understanding to the listing agent, again, having someone other than you as the agent reaching out and saying, hey, here's the deal, here's what they can, here's why it's beneficial, that might make a big difference as well. I see one hand raised, and then we're going to start to wrap this up. I promised you guys, Vincent has his hand raised. I promised you guys I had to run to meet my CPA. Vincent, what you got?
Hey, gang. If your buyer isn't necessarily hung up on, you know, VA, but more saving money, we touched on it earlier, but Keller Mortgage, no fees associated with that loan, and they credit $1,000 towards your closing costs if the loan's above 150 grand, I think. So if it's just that versus, you know, VA, then you might be able to save them some money and time and still go conventional there.
Killer point. And what a beautiful full circle there. You killed it with that. Yeah, really good point there. If it's about saving the money, you might need to talk to Keller Mortgage about that as well. Okay, last thoughts before I ask you to look at your sheet one last time. Any last final burning desire thoughts? Okay. So at the beginning of the call, I recommended grouping these ideas down into 3 different sections. I'm already doing it. It's working swell. I'm not doing it, and it's something that I've wondered about, and I'm not doing it, and I don't think I can do it in my market. I want you guys to, if you have the gumption, to sit down with your team, to sit down with your team leader, and to ideally sit down with your broker in charge, especially for that last category. Hey, is this even something we can do in our market? Because I think a lot of times we make assumptions about what we can and can't do rather than actually making sure we have the cold hard facts. So it's time to print out a purchase and sale agreement, whatever you call it in your market. And you got some bedtime reading to make sure that we fully understand the purchase and sale agreement, the loan document, all of those forms, that we know them inside and out so that we can use them to our benefit. And then let's double check with the people in our market who know the MLS rules, your whatever, licensing rules, all of that. What can we do that I'm not already doing? Those of you in my schedule, I'm going to be looking forward to hearing how this works out. Those of you outside of my schedule, make sure that you talk to your coach. And I believe this is recorded successfully, so I will send that out to, if you are not in my schedule, I'm going to hang tight for a second. Send me your email address in the chat box so I can get that written down so I can send you the recording if you want it, Good deal?
If you're in my schedule, I'll get it to you. Don't worry about it.
Is Ryan in your schedule?
Yep, so is Vincent.
Right.
So is Gima.
Sweet. Okay, perfect. I'm hanging tight in case anyone, so Rachel, I'll make sure to get it to you. Frank, make sure to get it to you. Absolutely. Always glad to have you, Frank. Did Frank already leave? No, there he is. Very good, very good. Got Britt as well. Awesome. I'll make sure to get it to you.
Will it be on the Facebook page?
It's a great question, Terry. I am going to do my best to see if it's postable. I don't know if the file this size, if I can post it or not. We're going to give it a go. Sherry, I got you as well. Make sure that gets to you. We're all just smiling at each other. Just smiling. Absolutely, no worries at all. Glad you could make it. All right, guys, going once, going twice. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, Arthur. It's nice to meet you. Yay!
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your week.